Hello guys, and welcome to this video. So today we're going to be talking about something a bit different. We're going to be looking at a lesson from my Fundamentals and Visualization book, and it kind of relates to spread triads, and we'll talk about what they are. But I'm really lucky that I get quite a few people coming to me asking me about subjects that I really enjoy, such as playing through changes or any of the pentatonic stuff, or maybe some diminished ideas and everything. And you know, I really enjoy talking about those subjects, but I equally enjoy talking about foundational elements and functional harmony in general, as if the foundational element of the guitar isn't really secure, then it's going to be hard to kind of add the icing on that cake successfully. So maybe I'll get someone coming to me and they'll be asking me, how do I play through giant steps? And we kind of break down their playing, and we realize that, without meaning to offend anyone, then many of these people will struggle at playing Twinkle, Twinkle Little Star on the guitar. Maybe they can play it single note line. But obviously the guitar is a harmony instrument too, and we want to be able to harmonize the melody too. So using spread triads, we're going to discuss how to do that, and we're also going to talk about the way that I see triads on the neck. So first of all, let's use C major to demonstrate this. We've got our normal major triad, C, E and G. There we go, and we would these are often called closed triads. To spread the triad out, sometimes it gets called open triads too. We take the middle note, which in this case is E, and we're going to take it up the octave. So we've got various different ways of playing this chord. We could play it there, we could play it there as I did before, and we can also move the E here to the next string along. So depending on where you've come from, or what you're playing next, say if I'm playing C to G, that works really nicely in that position, whereas here we would have to play it like that. So these different fingerings of these different triads are really important to learn. So I will be uploading all the different positions to these triads, open and closed triads, on my Patreon this week. And obviously it's a section in my book there, as well as many other topics in that book there. So that's our C major open triad, and then we want to be able to do that through its different inversions. And maybe you want to start at the lowest available place on the neck, which is that one there, and then be able to go up very freely. These need to be second nature. Otherwise, you're going to be struggling. So we've got two other triads built from thirds in the major scale, and those are going to be our minor triad and our diminished triad. If we take the lowest position of our A minor triad, we're just going to raise the G to an A, and we've got this. So we want to be able to go through that from the lowest to the highest place in the neck. We could do that one, and then, so obviously many different ways of playing these, but you just want to be confident moving through them. And finally we've got our diminished triad, which is obviously starts from the B. And this one, people say it's kind of a weird, it seems like a weird triad at first, but it's a very, very useful triad. It's just essentially functioning as a G7. And this is the framework from which many other chords are built upon, such as our half diminished chord, which functions as a 9 chord or a minor 6 chord, or even an altered chord. So it's a really important shape to learn. So we've got our diminished positions as well, and we've got this one, and we've got that one, and we've got that one, and finally at the top of the neck we've got this one. Okay, so you essentially need to be really, really familiar with all those different triad positions over the fretboard. But I'll go into more detail on the PDF on Patreon. So what major triads have we got within the major scale first? Obviously, many people will just say, okay, we've got our major triad from C, then D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, B diminished, and C. And that's a useful thing to be able to do, but it doesn't necessarily tell us the function of the chords. So in C major here, we've got a major triad of the root, and of the fourth, and of the fifth. So just taking those three chords, we can try and do little voice leading exercises between the triads. Okay, something like that. So I think I started C major, F major, G major, then I went back to C, then G, something like that, and then F major, and then back to C. Okay, I went down a slightly different way the second time there, but it was something like that. So I was just voice leading between the three major triads found within the major scale. So then you've got the same thing in relation to our relative minor. So we've got 1, 4, and 5 in major, and our relative minor of C is A minor. So we've got minor triads of the 1, the 4, and 5 of our relative minor too. So we've got A minor, D minor, which is the fourth in relation to A, and then E minor, which is the fifth in relation to A. So we could also voice lead between these triads. But the important thing is that understanding the relationship between these chords. So the 1 of our major is obviously related to the 1 of the relative minor. The 4 of the major, which is F, is obviously related to our D minor, which is the 4 of our relative minor. And the 5 in the major is related to the 5 of the minor. So understanding how the major and the relative minor relate to each other is a far more useful way of visualizing it. I can see I've got 1, 4, 5 and 1, 4, 5 there, major and minor. I find that far more useful than just thinking, okay, major, minor, minor, because that way doesn't necessarily tell us the way that these chords function. So then we've finally got our diminished triad, which, as we've talked about before, it just acts as a G7. So it's really not very, that's the most common application for that chord. So it's very important, but we're not going to be using it that much today. So how do we harmonize the scale using these triads? So we start on our C major. As we said before, we've got that, but if we were going to play Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star like that, it wouldn't really necessarily sound very convincing. C, of it starting on C, 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 G, G, A minor, G, F, F, E minor, D minor. I mean, that just doesn't sound what you want to hear, really, does it? It's not doing the job very effectively, let's put it that way. So we don't tend to harmonize melodies this way when we're playing melodies. We tend to harmonize scales just using 1, 4, and 5, like we would in functional harmony. So say you're going to start on C, and we're going to harmonize C with C. We've got some fireworks going on outside there. Sorry if you can hear those. So we've got our C, which we're going to harmonize with C, and then we've got our D, which we're going to harmonize with D, that's the fifth of D. Then we're back to C, and then we're going to harmonize the F with the F, and then we're going to harmonize the G with the C, and then we're going to harmonize the A with the F, and finally G. We could play G7 as well, and then back to our C again at the top. So this is the way that we would harmonize a melody like Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. We would harmonize it with 1, 4, and 5. So we would start on our C, and then C again, then our F, back to our C, then our F, C, G, back to our C. Okay, so it's understanding how to harmonize each note just using 1, 4, and 5. And then obviously you can be more creative with this. You could, for example, start on C. When we go to our F here, we could lower that C to our B, which kind of gives us a 5, 7 back to the C. Then F major, F minor, E minor, A7, D7, G7, sus, back to C. But now we're starting to incorporate 4-note chords. But essentially, if we are confident enough with the foundation, just being able to harmonize the melody with these basic triads from our ears as well, not having to think about, not having to learn an arrangement, you know, just being able to play a melody like this or a melody like Happy Birthday to You, then this is a really important foundational skill. So many guitarists get very technically proficient, and I was the same. When I was younger, you know, I started learning, you know, the Stairway to Heaven solo or something, or stuff that takes a relative amount of technique to be able to pull off. But then it got to a certain point in my guitar playing journey when I was essentially trying to play jazz, and I realized I had all these foundational elements to catch up on. And it was a lot harder because I hadn't been doing it from the start of my guitar playing journey. So if you recognize this as a weakness in your own playing, and if you sit down at the guitar and be like, oh, can I actually play Twinkle Twinkle Little Star? Can I? And play it with the chords at the same time. If this is not something that you can do, then there's probably a weakness in your foundation. And that is why I wrote this book, Foundation and Visualization for Guitarists. So I would recommend you check that out. And in that book, we go through all the triads. We also look at sus triads. So we look at the relationship between sus4 triads and sus2 triads, because essentially sus2 triads are just an inversion of sus4 triads. So they're the same thing, really. It's just the function that changes. So these are really important things to understand. We look at 7th note 5th voicing, 7th note 3rd voicings, stuff like that. And then we also look at 4-note chords, so that becomes drop chords. We look at playing scales all the way through the neck, whether that be in cage position, 3-note per string positions, 4-note per string, or combining the 3 and 4-note per string scale shapes to move up in octaves. We look at arpeggio exercises, all the arpeggios over the neck, the modes of the fretboard, and I explain them in the way that helped me understand them on the fretboard. So it's very in-depth, and it may seem overwhelming at first, but if you take these things step by step, then it should really help you with maybe your goal of being able to play through more complex changes, if we can really understand the foundational elements of the major scale. But anyway, guys, I'm sorry I haven't been here for a while, and I'll be back to doing maybe a lesson on the augmented scale or something next time. But I thought it was really important to talk about some of these foundational elements today, and hopefully it helps some of you out. So I will write out all the triads, closed and open positions, and I'll put those on my Patreon. I'll also include some voice leading exercises from the book, and these will combine all the different triads available to us within the major scale. So I demonstrated one from just using the major triads there, but I'll also demonstrate some from using the minor triads and incorporating the diminished sound within our major scale, and combining that with major and then the major and minor triads. But anyway, guys, I hope that helps some of you out, and as I said, I'll be back very shortly for another video.